don't think it can happen to you.
The hit-and-run chase in California, a motorcycle rider witnessing a driver slam into several cars and then speeding away.
It can happen to you within seconds, a blink of an eye.
Tonight about the man suspected of killing a woman in a hit-and-run and his plan to evade justice.
When you take your eyes off the road for just seconds, when you're driving your car, oh, yes, it can happen to you. See, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When the sands of time will run out within your hourglass.
New at 10, a hit and run caught on video, and now a teenager and his family are looking for the driver who took off.
He was a victim of a distracted driver hitting the road while riding his motorcycle going 65 miles per hour. He nearly lost his life. Now on a crusade to help save lives and prevent someone else from becoming a victim, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com and now the host of this podcast, it's Howard Drescher.
All right, welcome. Welcome back, I should say, to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, DistractedDB. You can get the shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and now Amazon. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. Okay, a lot of crazy things have been going on. It has been 49 days since my last podcast show. 49 days, almost 2 months. Wow. And I got to tell you, there has been so many things going on. But I'm sure a lot of you would want to know what happened to me. On July 6th, I went in for a surgery. I had 2 surgeries identically at the same time. Well, they finished up one and went right into the other one. And so I went into the hospital in Camp Pendleton, California, as a retired military person. That's where my doctor is at. I had 2 excellent doctors work on me. I remained in the hospital probably for 6 days. And during that time frame, had some complications, and then they had pluses, and they had minuses again. It's back and forth. And eventually what ended up happening was, obviously, I was able to come home, and I was probably out for nearly 3 weeks from when that happened, and after the surgery. And it's taken a while. I ended up going back to work on August 1st. Oh my God. It was so terrible. I felt like I was an alien getting in my car and driving for the first time. Everything I did, it seemed like I was going in slow motion. Got to work. Same thing. I started doing some of the stuff that I normally do. It seemed like I was going in slow motion. And everything that I was doing, I was going at my normal pace. At least it seemed like I was at my normal pace. But yet, it just felt like I was moving in slow motion. And that is a feeling that one should never, ever have. But I guess that is something that ends up happening from time to time. And I have been back to my doctor once since then. So I kind of got a clean bill of health. I go back to my doctor one more time so that way they can verify everything is now okay. I do have a little bit of concerns on some of the soreness and stuff that I have. I know that they said it would take a little while, and you're going to have that for a bit. But I just felt, sometimes I just feel like, oh, wow, am I getting better or I'm not? And I was so exhausted during the time that I was in recovery. even though that I had to get up every hour, walk around, not when I went to sleep though, during the daytime. I had to get up and try to walk around to get my faculties going back to where they're normally supposed to be. That took a little bit longer. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes I felt good. Sometimes it didn't. I just felt like so exhausted. I just wanted to go back to sleep. And so eventually I've been watching a lot of news. I happened to take in a lot of baseball games on TV because there was nothing else for me to watch. I wasn't even interested in watching the shows that I planned on watching while I was in recovery. I just felt like, whatever, put the TV on, put a baseball game on, whatever game was available at the time, I would watch that. Sometimes I'd fall asleep. And then sometimes I would just wake up and I'd kind of be back to my normal self. And then I'd get up and walk around very gingerly, very slow. But that is what really happened, and that's why I was not around for 49 days. But I've also kept up with a lot of bad people, I would say, in the public eye. Car crashes, hit and runs, DUIs, crazy people driving. Some people should not be driving. I know up in LA somewhere, they built up this new bridge, not exactly sure where. But I seen how people were drag racing on it, doing donuts, doing all sorts of weird stuff. LAPD had to enforce stuff. Highway Patrol had to enforce stuff. Only thing I can say is, you dumbasses, your tax dollars are paying for that. So for every time that you do something, you're destroying and you're throwing your own money away. And when they have to go back and repaint the streets, or they got to take off all the graffiti and all this stuff, well, we're paying for it again. So lay off the streets and stuff and stop doing this vandalism stuff that don't need to happen, because you're going to end up paying for it again anyways. Maybe not you, because you probably have no freaking job. And second, your parents will end up paying for it. And then in the long run, you're still paying for it. That's just the bottom line. And that's the way it's going to be. It comes out in your taxes. So, and if you have a job, when they start taking more out in your taxes, you're going to wonder why. Well, here is the answer. Because you decided to do mischievous little things to this new bridge that they built. Why? I have no idea. All right, anyways, when we come back, a nurse, well, oh my God. This was the most horrific story that I talked about, that I'm going to talk about today. And this happened a couple days ago, and I know everybody's talked about it until they're blue in the face. You go on YouTube, you find nothing but stories about this nurse, but the brutal facts are, she shouldn't have been driving, and whether she had anything wrong with her, if she was intoxicated or any drugs, I don't really know for sure. I've heard different reports. I just know that when she plowed through that intersection, prior to her hitting that car, all those cars, I actually counted, and I may have missed some, at least 14 cars going through. So you know that that light was red for a long period of time, and she smashed through that intersection 90 miles an hour or plus. That is so insane. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. We're going to be back real quick, talk about this story. And of course, there's an actress who may not make it from her crash, from what I understand. We'll be back right after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Hey, there's no way you can hide it. If you drive drunk, they're gonna find you. So stop kidding yourself.
Sir, have you been drinking tonight? Sir, have you been drinking this evening?
Sir, have you been drinking tonight?
They will catch you and arrest you. Drive sober or get pulled over.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and, of course, on Facebook, DistractedDB. You can get the shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and now Amazon. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. And I know it's been 49 days since I've done the show from my last show. I'm hoping to try to get some guests once I get a little bit better. I'm good enough to do some shows kind of on my own, but I do want to get some guests, and I do want to try to talk to some people in regards to some of these stories that we're going to be talking about here shortly. But this story comes from KTLA Channel 5, and I alluded to it. There's a nurse who crashed her car through an intersection and killed at least six. At least six. And one of them was an unborn baby. There was injuries. And, of course, she ended up with just a little nicks and bruises and stuff like that. She was in a hospital. She remained there for a couple of days, and she was immediately arrested once she was deemed to leave the hospital. And she's been in jail. And here's a story that I got from KTLA Channel 5, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. Here's the thing. This is when she was in court, and she was denied bail. And again, I want to thank KTLA Channel 5 for allowing me to use the sound.
There's no bail set in this matter.
Making her first court appearance since the deadly crash, Nicole Linton breaks down, sitting in a wheelchair after a judge denies her bail request. The 37-year-old is accused of being behind the wheel of a Mercedes, speeding through a red light at La Brea and Slauson last Thursday, killing 6 people.
Her vehicle sheared a car that exploded into flames.
On Monday, L.A. County DA George Gascon announced the charges against Linton, a traveling nurse from Texas. 6 counts of murder and 5 counts of vehicular manslaughter with gross negligence. Investigators say Linton was driving 90 miles an hour.
A young family was destroyed at a blink of an eye. There's catastrophic damage to the families and friends of those killed and injured.
The crash site has turned to a growing memorial. 23-year-old Asher Ray Ryan, her unborn baby, 11th-month-old son Alonzo, and her boyfriend Reynold Lester among those who died. The coroner has not identified the other 2 women killed in the multiple vehicle collision. Attorneys revealed Linton had been suffering from mental health issues for some time and has a history of dangerous driving. KTLA legal analyst Allison Treasel says the defendant's reckless behavior will factor into the case.
Her history of reckless driving and apparently 13 prior crashes or accidents, that is enough, according to the district attorney, to charge her with second-degree murder under the theory that this conduct was so egregious, malice is implied.
Over the weekend, family members of some of the victims finding compassion amid the heartache.
We forgive her, and that she will have to live with this for the rest of her life. That's why she was spared.
And Nicole Linton's arraignment was delayed until October. She has a bail review set for next week. If she's found guilty, she could spend the rest of her life in prison.
All right, and again, that was KTLA Channel 5, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. Can you imagine getting hit by a car when that car is traveling 90 miles an hour? And I want to say, I know my last podcast show that I did, 46 days or 49 days ago, I bagged on the district attorney in L.A., George Castone. I see this time he's stepping up. And he better keep the metal to the pedal on this one and do not let this guy or let this gal get away with what she's done. She needs to be locked up. She's already had anger issues before. Was considered and now she's a nurse. She's a nurse, and she was kind of like off the cuckoo clock there just a little bit. How in the hell can anybody? No way. Man. I'm glad she was not my nurse while I was in the hospital. There is no way. A traveling nurse from Texas who has issues, and yet here she is helping patients in a hospital. She has mental issues, I believe, or something ain't right with her. That elevator's not going to the top floor. It's stuck somewhere around the 7th or 8th floor. And she's taking care of patients, and she already has issues of reckless driving in the past. Why was she driving that day? Are we not looking after the problem children anymore? Are we not allowing our legal system to take effect? Or does everybody get a participation trophy? That's what I want to know. If everybody gets a participation trophy, then we're in trouble. If you're doing something wrong and behind the wheel, and death like this occurs, she should never, ever, ever be behind the wheel again. No. I say no way. There is no way in hell she should be behind the wheel. And if she is convicted of this stuff, the reporter already indicated, and the legal beagle over there at KTLA indicated she could be put away for life. And the LA District Attorney, George Castone, you need to do the right thing. You need to do the right thing and do not let anything detract you from what you need to do. If not, it's a slap in the face to these 6 people that were killed. Quite honestly, to me, they were murdered. And I've always talked about this before in the past, and I'll still continue to talk about it. When you're behind a vehicle, that is considered a weapon. That's a 4,000 or 5,000 ton weapon. And you drive recklessly, and you go through an intersection like that? What is wrong with people? This has got to be done right. And I hope that it is done the way it is supposed to be. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. Oh, boy. I'm recording the show on Sunday night. And today is the day that it's actually being run. I hear from the news that somebody's going to be possibly taken off the life support. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Papa, why can't we telegraph while riding a horse?
Son, there ain't no one to blame but Jeffro.
He was riding old Betsy the Stallion, tip-tapping away at his telegraph, when blam! Ran right into the side of the saloon.
Well, if Jeffro can't do it, neither should you. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon. Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, again, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV. And, of course, on Facebook, it's DistractedDB. And I got to tell you that I know that there's a lot of new followers that have been following me while I was out in recovery after my surgery or my 2 surgeries. And I want to thank them, and I will acknowledge them in the future here. And I do appreciate that. And just to let my new followers know, you can listen to the podcast shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Amazon. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. Okay, so in this next story, which comes from Fox LA, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound, I'm not exactly sure if this actress was distracted. I've heard different things, and I don't want to really say anything quite yet until we hear the story officially from Fox LA out here in Los Angeles. And I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
And grim news coming out from the media rep for the actress Anne Heche, saying the injury is a lot more severe than any of us thought. She is suffering from a severe brain injury, in a coma, on life support, and as that statement read, quote, not expected to survive. Let's get to the sad story. First, let's show you part of the statement that just came out from her publicist, the media rep, a little while ago. It reads in part, and I quote, unfortunately, due to her accident, Anne suffered a severe anexic brain injury and remains in a coma in critical condition. She is not expected to survive. It has long been her choice to donate her organs, and she's being kept on life support to determine if any are viable. Stop quote. Some video now of the scene of when all of this began to take a tragic turn. A week ago this very day, Anne Heche, LAPD, says involved in at least 2 hit-and-run crashes. The last crash, not a hit-and-run, it's when Heche drives her Mini Cooper into a home, completely into a home in the Mar Vista neighborhood of L.A. The home burst into flames. Heche is pulled from the wreckage. She is rushed here to the Grossman Burn Center at the West Hills Medical Center. We now know from that media statement that she never regained consciousness after that crash and has been kept on life support ever since. LAPD launching a felony investigation, it said, because of the accident, and then releasing yesterday some information on blood tests taken from the actress, saying that Anne Heche not under the influence of alcohol when that crash happened, but the blood test indicated traces of cocaine in her system at the time of the accident as their investigation goes on. Some more video now. Anne Heche, 53 years old. Soap opera fans know her from Another World. Her performance on Another World really put her on the map in show business. She won a Daytime Emmy for that, you know. And she went on to star in several movies you would know, from the remake of Psycho to Wag the Dog, several TV shows, many of them you would know as well. And, of course, she might be best known for her high-profile romance with the comedian and the former talk show host Ellen DeGeneres. That relationship ended back in 2000, and then Anne moved on to a couple of other relationships. She leaves behind 2 sons, and as we come back out live, that statement from her media rep ends by saying Anne will long be remembered for her courageous heart, her courageous honesty, and the spirit that she leaves behind. As all of this continues to play out, but again, the media rep saying it does not look good. Anne Heche suffering severe brain injuries, not expected to survive, on life support now, as the family decides the best way, if they can, to donate her organs. For now, we are live here in West Hills. Back to both of you we go.
All right, Ed and Christine, I know you've met her, and we're close with many people that are close with her.
I'm reminded that this is not something that anybody would want for any of their loved ones or their family members or their friends. And I was with her at a board meeting for Race to Erase MS in February, and we had to talk about how much work she had done for that organization. I talked with two of her friends tonight, and they were just too distraught to speak, but one gave me the statement that Anne is kind-hearted and a loving person, and I adore her, and, a reminder she's a mother, and she will be missed by so many.
I really feel for her family tonight.
All right, and again, that story comes from Fox LA out here in Los Angeles, Channel 11, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. It's a sad thing. It is a sad thing when somebody who you have seen on TV, somebody who you may have seen in the movies, somebody that you've seen in the tabloids, ends up in this situation. But that just goes to show everybody, and I mean everybody, life is precious. Life can be taken away in a blink of an eye. It's in my show opening. In a blink of an eye, everything could be taken away from you. There's circumstances with this young lady, why she was in the state that she was, and she already had one hit and run, and then she kept going and ended up crashing into a house, which we all know what happened from that point on. But life is so precious. You have to take it seriously. When you get behind the wheel, you have to focus. You cannot be drinking. You cannot be driving. You can't be having cocktails in a bar or whatever and then come out and then try to get behind the wheel. You obviously can't have any kind of drugs, whether they're prescribed or not. It is something that you should never, ever do and get behind the wheel. Because, again, life is so precious, and this actress now has lost her life. She's in a coma, and from what I understand from the news, again, I'm recording this show Sunday night around 9 p.m. From what I understand from the news a little bit earlier today, they're probably going to take her off her life support system on Sunday. I'm not saying that that's going to happen for sure. It's just what I've heard, and it may or may not happen. But for the love of God, I'm asking each and every one of you that are listening to this show, you think about what the consequences will be if you're not paying attention behind the wheel 110%. It only takes a second, a blink of an eye, and boom, your life is turned upside down if you're able to survive. And there's no telling what Anne Heche would have been doing in the future. She could be doing great things to help out people, help out all sorts of charities. Just her presence alone would be able to help out people. But now we'll never know. We'll never know the circumstances, and we'll never know anything like that again. Because for one short moment, a lapse in judgment took it all away. Please, don't let anyone take the sands of time within your own hourglass. And don't you do anything stupid behind the wheel. Until our next show, please be safe. And remember, I don't want to die today. Do you?